is up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of The Growth Blueprint. In this episode, I'm not entirely sure what to call this episode, but it was just some ramblings that I was having the other night that ended up being something that I think would some of y'all would find interesting. And I kind of do this on a pretty regular basis, just kind of like have these moments where I kind of teach a topic out loud or to my voice messages, and that's what this is it's just me talking about metabolism and helping to kind of understand and take it apart from a tactical kind of science-backed approach. And so I'm going to be posting more of these. So if you want to leave in the comments what you thought about it, if you like this format, if you thought it was useful, that would be super cool. But without further ado, let's dive right in.
One of the hardest things for people to learn is this idea of actually what metabolism is and what, like, it's not even, you can't even call it metabolism anymore, because if you say metabolism, everybody conflates it with there's a whole bunch of other words that come along with it, like weight loss, like hormones, like cortisol, like dieting, like high intensity interval training, like cleanses, like hormone support supplements. Like, I mean, the list just goes on. And it's not, metabolism doesn't belong in that category. It's kind of its own thing, and a lot of those things don't belong in the same category. But for this conversation, we're focusing on metabolism. And so I was just thinking about how there's no analogy that I can think of to get you to understand what metabolism is. The best analogy I can think of is to think about food like the gas in your car. And you need to continue to put gas in your car just like you need to continue to put food in your body. But things start to break down. The analogy starts to break down when we say, well, what happens if the car runs out of gas? And we try to say, well, what happens when the human body runs out of gas? Well, the human body doesn't run out of gas, but that doesn't mean that it can't keep burning calories. And this is where this breaks down. When your car runs out of gas, it just stops. When your body runs out of the gas that it had available, it doesn't just stop. It can keep going, right? We don't just fall over and die when we've run out of energy if we didn't eat enough food one day, right? Which is great, because that would be insane if that was the case and when we worked like a car did. But we still have a gas tank. Now, when we're talking about metabolism, the words that belong in the category with metabolism are calories, macros, proteins, carbohydrates, fat. And we can add some more later, but we're going to just talk about those for a second. Okay. The gas that is in your gas tank, just like your car or a car may take diesel, or it may take only premium, or it may take a variety of different kinds of gases. It may not matter, right? Your body's gas is made up of proteins, carbohydrates, and fat, or generally speaking, called your macros. Okay? Your body burns macros. It burns proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Those are the things that it can turn into energy. And so it is things that it will turn into energy. And these are the macros. And so each of these macros has a specific form, and it has a specific way that your body can burn it. Okay, we're not talking about using for anything else. We're talking about burning it. Okay, convert it into energy. When it comes to carbohydrates are turned into energy by going through. So that, remember, can you remember when you learned that the mitochondria was the powerhouse of the cell? Did you learn that? Yeah. So the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It's where energy is made. That's probably all you remember. But the mitochondria is the part of the cell that's specifically designed for dealing with carbohydrates. It's the place that all carbohydrates go. They all go to mitochondria. Every single carbohydrate that ever goes in your body goes through mitochondria. That's a lie. Maybe not every single carbohydrate, but most of them. And so when it goes to this mitochondria, by the time it gets there, it's in the form of glucose. Okay, so whether it was glucose or something that was more of a complex carb or, whatever. By the time it gets to the mitochondria, it is glucose. All carbohydrates are just chains of sugars or large molecules of glucose or some isoform or something very similar to glucose. By the time it gets to the mitochondria, all of it's glucose. And so when it gets there, it first gets broken down. It just, we're not going to get into that, but it gets broken down into chunks. And so glucose it's this ring, and it gets broken out of that, so then it becomes a chain. And then that chain of atoms, of carbon atoms and oxygen atoms, okay, that's what glucose is a chain of carbon and oxygen atoms. By the time it gets to the mitochondria, the mitochondria chops it up. And it chops it into chunks. And as it chops it into chunks, it gathers energy from this. And it chops it into these chunks and creates carbon dioxide. And it uses oxygen to do this. It takes and it mixes those chunks with oxygen, and a chemical reaction happens, and CO2 is produced, and energy is produced. And this energy is the energy that we're talking about, and it's measured in calories. Okay, and so this is where the idea of total, daily energy needs come from, or metabolic rate, right? These are words that talk about the energy that is produced by the chemical reactions in your body that can be used to run your system. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about metabolic rate. And that's something that, if nobody's ever taught you that, you've never thought about that before. And that's kind of the point. That's the whole point of this rant that I'm on. Is that these things have to be thought about as the way they are. It does you a lot of harm. It can really screw up a lot of your health and fitness, and your goals. Because again, I'm assuming that you have goals to be as healthy as possible, right? And you want to be as healthy as possible as you can be for as long as possible. Well, thinking that metabolism is anything other than what it is going to hinder your ability to adequately provide for the system the way that it needs to be provided for. Right? You need to understand the system in order to support the system. And so this is why I wanted to tell you what metabolism is in this podcast, or whatever this is going to end up being. I'm just, at the moment, recording a voice memo on my phone, wandering around my phone, because the idea struck me. But yeah, that's metabolism.
If you made it through that horrendous audio, I hope that you learned something, because as always, your time is your most valuable resource. And if you spent that with me today, then I hope that it was an investment that you are proud of and that was worth your time. So thank you. If it was, share the episode, invite somebody to follow the show. It grows because you help it, and make it grow because you're amazing. I'll see y'all in the next one.